We had some technical difficulties there. You'll probably see that there's a half of a video before this, but we're talking about Alien Frontiers and Factions expansion. I guess we can just continue where we left off. I don't know exactly what you guys are talking about, so you can just go on ahead.
So we just start going to your specific questions.
Okay.
Because we kind of talked about, in the previous clip, we talked about our overall thoughts, but you'll hear all of that if we talk about individual things. So what are some of your individual questions?
What did you think of the layout of the board, the elements, and the use of the dice and game pieces?
Who are you directing that to?
You, Robert, first.
So for the base game, I'm pretty satisfied with the way the board's laid out. My only problem is that I want to fit all the components onto the board or somewhere around the board that's real logical. So like in the area that's the ore refinery where you get the ore, or the little moon thing where you get the ore, I want to stack all the ore there, which works pretty well. And then over at the solar converter, I want to put all the little solar few chips there, and it fits okay, but it's it's a little bit cramped. But then you've got the alien artifact ship, and I want these alien artifact cards to fit nicely, and they're sitting off the board, and sometimes they're in other people's spaces. So it's just a minor thing, but otherwise I think the board's laid out pretty well, and it functions well enough for the space that you do need.
What do you think about the way that the pieces are used, like the way that the dice are used as ships and things like that?
I think it's pretty good, straightforward. You've got all the different squares that tell you where to go, and most of the symbolism makes sense, even though there's a lot of it. So you get a little confused.
So, Troy, what do you think about the layout of the board and how the pieces are used?
I thought it was well laid out. It was pretty clear what was orbital and what was on the planet. The idea of using the dice as ships, I thought was strong. I wasn't sure if there was a mechanic that made it a disadvantage to have the maximum number of ships. Seems like there could be ways to make some kind of upkeep or something that makes it so that you don't always want to just have the maximum number of ships.
Yeah. Well, there's also cases in the past I've played games where someone just got a couple of good doubles and had the right resources, and they ended up having 2 more ships than everyone else early on in the game, and they got such a massive head start, and there was really no downside to having more ships. Can't say that's necessarily an imbalance, but it would make me wonder if some kind of upkeep would be necessary.
The other thing that I would bring up is they do try to seem to balance. They seem to give a lot of credence to going first. And in terms of blocking someone from someplace, that could be considered an advantage. But it's also it seems like if that were really true, they would want to make it so the order that you play is based on is changed every so many turns based on how many points everybody has in the game.
Yeah.
They seem to think that it's a huge advantage to go first, and I'm not really sure if that's true other than just blocking somebody from a certain spot. Because after a while, it wraps around and blocking happens to everybody.
Yeah. Are you saying that because of the resources that are given out at the beginning?
That tells me that they think that very first turn is very important to the first.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to try it without that.
I wonder if there is some specific strategy out there that somebody knows of that would give you the advantage. I mean, I think the only thing that you could really block would maybe be like the lunar mine with a 6 if you're lucky enough to roll it.
Yeah, that would be the toughest one.
Everything else seems to have enough spots at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I noticed for myself, I forget what it's called, the little orbital trade center, I guess. I mean, that included the expansion, but like using that as with the expansion, like I was able to block that off for a lot of turns. I mean, not really intentionally. I was just wanting to use it, but it really kept the other two players out of it, and I think that helped me a lot. So, I mean, it might not be like who necessarily goes first, but it is the blocking mechanism does seem to be pretty strong,
Yeah,
at
pretty
least with
impactful.
fewer players. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
see if you blocked both of them with your dice, then that would work. Oh well, on the first turn though,
yeah, you can't
there are
really do
force
that on the
spells, you
first
can't really do
turn.
it at the
You don't have a lot of ships to begin the game with, so blocking you'd be blocking more than one thing isn't really feasible. It's when you
Yeah.
have a lot of ships that you can block a lot of stuff.
Right, that's true.
I'm wondering what it is that you would do that I'm not aware of. That would be an advantage.
Well, like I said, it'd probably be worth playing a game at some point without those bonus resources at the beginning, just to see how it feels.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be too much different.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, it might actually be a benefit to get the resources and just go last, because you can
Yeah.
get more stuff first.
Especially if you like roll doubles right away, and last you get the 2 that you need to make a ship, so you can just make one right away
Yeah.
if they're not blocked by people.
Well, technically yeah, I guess the first person couldn't possibly make a ship then, because they have no starting resources. They have only 3 dice, and if they roll doubles, that only gives them 1 die to use, and they would need an ore and a fuel. So player 1 couldn't possibly get an extra ship. But I don't know.
Only the next player. So yeah, I don't quite get that. Yeah, I almost think like maybe like as a house rule, you wouldn't really need to have that in there.
Well, I mean, do we feel like that's a problem though? I mean, I guess we're questioning why they have added that element. But I mean, I haven't encountered a situation where, you know, because someone had those resources, it was necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
You know? I'm just kind of leaving it to the designers, developers that happen to know better.
Yeah.
I would say that if the winner of the dice roll at the beginning got to choose what they do first, I would be surprised if they didn't take the resources.
Oh, like the winner says what
instead of it determining who goes first, if they chose what they wanted to do, if they chose to go first, you know, a third of the time, then I would say that it's balanced. If they chose to get the resources, I'd say that maybe it isn't.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Maybe we'll try that too. Just give that person the choice to go first, second, third, fourth, whatever the number of people are. Be interesting.
Yeah. That's true.
What else do you have got for us, Sonia?
Did you feel that, well, it's kind of on strategy now, did you feel there was a dominant strategy to the game, or do you feel like there was a variety of strategies you could take to win?
I'm going to let someone else touch that one first, 'cause I have some feedback on it. Yeah, go for it.
I mean, I guess it's a little bit what you guys were talking about. I mean, just getting the most ships as fast as possible seemed to be the obvious strategy, I guess. Just, I don't know, it just adds more resources every turn. So, yeah, over time, it just seemed like the best strategy, at least to me. So that's what I went for.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think I kind of messed up on one of the games where I decided to use the terraforming station too early, and I was blowing up my ships, and then I didn't have as good of rolls because I didn't have as many options.
Right. Yeah, you were winning a lot early on.
But then I was not getting enough resources, so I would say
careless.
It's probably bad to do that right off the bat, and better to wait until you have like 5 or 6 ships to start using the terraforming station.
Yeah.
I don't really have much in terms of strategy. My strategy was just to try to cobble together enough stuff to finally get something on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say there's probably no dominant strategy necessarily. I mean, because they have so many other elements to the game where you can use the alien tech cards, which can help, and with the added like factions, especially, you've got your agendas, which can give you extra points. So, I mean, actually kind of like that because they could be hidden points that nobody knows about. So you could actually maybe pull forward at the end. So I wouldn't say, especially adding that there isn't necessarily a dominant strategy, but there's enough variety.
Yeah, I was gonna say to Tony's point. I think that yeah, one of the obvious uh, strategies is to just get lots of ships, you know, and also to Troy's point, there's really no negative to having too many ships, really. Besides that, I mean, when I first played the game, I felt that one of the things I liked about it was that I actually could pick and choose different strategies each time I played and be successful with that, or almost successful. You know, I felt like there was a chance to win. I just either got outplayed or someone else's strategy just was maybe a little bit better. But all in all, I felt like I had a lot of choices. I feel like the biggest problem that I've experienced, at least in terms of some strategies, is that it sometimes really has to be adaptive, because if you don't get what you need when you need it, and you start to fall behind, it's hard to catch up. And the last game I played, I was behind the whole game, and I started catching up, but by the time I got, you know, within points of potentially winning, the game was over, and, you know, maybe a couple of turns later I would have been able to catch up just because of the velocity I was moving. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like choosing a more common or reliable strategy is, I guess, more of a dominant strategy than trying something a little more exotic because of the risk of falling behind.
Yeah.
I have a question, which is, what did everybody think of the? I guess it's the expansion that has the technology that you use throughout the game. That's exclusive to you. Like I had the ability to bump people from the pirate docking platform.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that was kind of a big part of the game, so I was just curious as to what everybody thought about it.
You're talking about the factions now.
Yes.
Yeah, he's talking about the little tiles.
I really liked that addition to it, especially when I had the Homesteaders Union, because it allowed me to go one early on the hub. So I really enjoyed that you had like your own special extra advantage. I thought that was nice addition to the game, and that you had more places on the board too that you could go, and you could pay just a little bit to use it. I thought that was really interesting. Some of them though, I felt like were kind of not that interesting, like the ones that use the field generators, because I feel like the field generators aren't really used that much in the base game even.
I feel like that one, I agree. I felt like that one seemed a little lackluster. But when I after thinking about it a bit, I think that one could be very powerful. It's just a matter of getting those on the planet early enough that you can consistently take advantage of it. Because most of the games that we play, it's usually towards the end when people are just kind of trying to block people out.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. My overall experience with the factions was I played games where they were integral, and I played other games where it was almost completely forgotten. You know, no one used them, or, you know, you thought about using it, but it just never seemed necessary because you could do everything you needed to do with the board. I'd still like to play more games with the factions, but I felt like it was kind of hit and miss on some games.
Yeah, I think it also depended on what people pick too. Like, um, some of them I just wouldn't really see using.
Yeah.
Unless I just wanted to, just because I could.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of wonder if it would have been more interesting if I guess we were able to choose from more than, I guess it was one plus the amount of people we played with, so
Yeah.
it was four. Just because it would have been given us more opportunity to like figure out a strategy, you know, like when we only had four to choose from with our three playing, it was sort of like you get what you see, and you can't really like go with the strategy you want. You just sort of have to decide which strategies are available to you. You know.
I think that if we were to pick specific ones, then that would maybe add to the game and people would actually be using them more.
Yeah.
If
What
we
do
were,
you mean by what do
well,
you mean by letting you choose specific ones?
like if we just decided, say it was like a house rule where, okay, we're gonna play Homesteaders Union Core. I'm actually reading them right now. Cortex Conglomerated, New Gaia, and Uranian Syndicate, and that was like instead of us choosing of two, like maybe like the first person who gets to play gets to pick like one, and then we just go around. But we know that these are the ones on the board. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that would be better, but maybe that would.
I've been a fan of games that when you have that option, I've been a fan of not always being able to choose anything you want. You know, like in Cosmic Encounter, you only get to choose one of two alien races dealt out to you. And not only do I feel like it forces me to think a little bit harder about how I'm going to play the game, but I feel like if I was allowed to choose anything from the get-go, I would probably choose the same things over and over, and the game might get boring to me. I haven't played all the faction tiles yet, you know, and I've had the same choices a couple of times, and I've gone with certain things. But I feel like if I'm being encouraged to try different things, it might be more exciting. And also, I think it might also avoid some of the dominant strategies that could appear, because I feel like of all of them, the Homesteaders Union that you've mentioned, Sonia, is the most, in my opinion, the most obviously powerful, because that coupled with the bonus power that you get from taking over that section of the planet, you can get out colonies really fast.
The one that ends with the colonist hub, I don't remember exactly which territory that is, but
yeah, I forget exactly too.
For every dice on top of it, so it's like, yay, colony, colony, colony. It doesn't really seem very fair. That's true. And I mean, it would be interesting if you had it where so many times you had the same factions that you might consider like taking that one out and not making that a choice so that it makes the game different.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm curious what Troy thought about the faction tiles.
I felt like they could be pretty powerful. I know that the one that I had, it could be powerful if probably the more people you had in the game, I'm guessing. But it also forced you to use a strategy which was not very friendly, because it, by definition, using that platform was it's like rolling 7 in Settlers where you're moving the robber every turn.
Yeah. Do you think, because it's funny that you mentioned that about being friendly, because like, Gesundheit, because in like Cosmic Encounter, you kind of expect people to lie and cheat, and everyone's still laughing, where I feel like in Alien Frontier, there's very little player interaction, that when you do use the Raiders outpost or some other kind of attack, it it's kind of bittering. It's a little, it's it feels almost worse to do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it seems like, I mean, I guess the question there is whether or not, we should feel ashamed for being aggressive against other players in the game, or, I guess that's a hurdle we have to get over.
Yeah.
I guess I think part of it was just the overall interaction. I mean, it didn't seem like there were any positive ways to interact with each other, so there was no real diplomacy,
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it was sort of like either you do your own thing or you interfere with someone in a negative fashion, and that, I think that made it a little feeling just a little tough and like a little aggressive, rather than, you can have both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like there's a lot of elements in the game that aren't very nice. Like when you get to your territories and all the territories are taken up, at that point you're kind of forced to start to
contest something.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, who am I gonna pick this time? I mean, I guess when I decide, it's based on, well, what do I want? Not really who do I want to, mess with. Unless it's you, Robert. Then it's always, bad.
Well, in our game, there was an interesting dynamic where, because of the faction tile that had to do with breaking ties on the planet, that when you're settling colonies, you're almost picking like who you want to give control of the power of that colony to, because if you create a tie when you place your colony down on the planet, you're never taking the power away from everybody. You're only changing it from one person to the other.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Because if it would create a tie, then you're not actually taking the power away from your opponents. You're actually just shifting it from one to the other.
Yeah.
Which kind of like makes an interesting dilemma, because you kind of need, in order to win, you need to get colonies down, but part of getting the colonies or choosing your location is trying to figure out which power that's down on the planet would be the most useful to you, or is benefiting somebody the most.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that faction tile really made it difficult to choose where to put your colonies, because being able to use any power where there's a tie, I found to be it's really hard to avoid ties on the planet.
Yeah.
Just not that many colonies to pick from.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. Because I remember you mentioned that one the other day, and I read it again because when I first heard about it, it sounded extremely powerful. And I don't know, I actually kind of want to play with that tile just to see kind of how it works, because usually the contested territories don't really happen until the end, because everyone kind of ends up getting a bunch of places, and then, last 2 or 3 colonies are, ones that end up contesting things. So you end up, it's almost like a late game kind of benefit. And I'd like to see what kind of benefit you can really get from it. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'm curious to see how that one works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was the one using the tile, so I could just say the strategy that I don't know if I used it, but I could think up is just like, if one person like Sonia was like getting all the colonies really early, then if I wanted to use the colony's power, I didn't need 2. I can just put a colony on hers.
Yeah, it almost encouraged you to contest it.
Yeah, so then we're tied, and then I'm able to use the colony's power right there. So it made it a lot easier for me to get a power that I wanted without having to worry about having a majority on there. So yeah. I think that helped a lot for me. I was just able to sort of pick and choose whichever powers I wanted.
Regarding the planet's powers, did you guys feel like there were any particular ones that were better than others?
Yeah. I mean, like when you said when you have the, especially with the factions, taking that one combined with the Homesteaders Union, the one that advances you in the hub more, that's definitely uh, very overpowered with that combination.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like on their own, though, I would say the Aura one is nice. Being able to put the first die as anything, because if you have it all blocked off with sixes, it's nice to be able to actually get something.
Yeah.
Mm. I don't. I don't think the solar converter one is really that interesting. It just gives you more.
More solar energy.
Yeah, I feel like solar energy is pretty easy to come by, so I don't know if it's necessarily that great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
weaker one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, sort of on that note, like I felt like the territory that allowed you to trade one solar for one ore was really powerful because I mean, like ore can be pretty difficult to come by, and solar energy is just like you could get tons of it pretty easily. So when you had that colony, that helped a lot. Just being able to use that whenever I wanted. I guess I had to land on the orbital platform or whatever, but yeah, going one for one, that helped a lot for me.
Yeah, I could see the solar converter one being beneficial if you are doing a lot of alien tech card like special abilities, because those usually cost solar energy. And I actually, one of the games I played, I focused a lot on just getting a ton of alien tech cards. And I think at one point I got up to 4 different cards, and I was going to try and go for more than that, but I kind of, I put too many eggs in one basket, spent too much time getting cards and not doing anything else, so I kind of had to switch at that point. But I felt like at that point there was kind of an exhaustion of my solar fuel resource, and that territory would have been beneficial and something I would probably consider in the future to get. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It depends. It's one of those things where when I think about it at first, I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's as good.
Even a combination of that one and then the ratio one would be good, because then you could take that one, get extra, and trade it for ore if you were fortunate enough to get both.
Yeah.
So maybe
we didn't know about the limit of 8 resources total, and it would have been really hard to get ore if we'd known that from the beginning, because a lot of times it was like we thought it was, well, first we didn't know the limit, and then when we heard the limit we thought it was 8 each, and then we could pile up a whole bunch of solar or fuel cells to try to get some ore.
Right.
To know that there's a limit of 8 total, that would make it really hard to get ore, I would think. Because, I mean, a lot of times you're not going to get the advantage of a one-to-one trade.
Yeah.
Unless you know you were going to be using your resources, but that's not necessarily going to happen.
It's almost like the ease at which you can get the fuel cells is a disadvantage because it's taking up the resource slots that you're going to really need for the ore.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I've always been a little bit iffy about the actual resource system in the game because, like you're saying, Troy, it seems like it's so easy to get the solar energy and so hard to get the ore, and yet, you go through both of them fairly quickly because most of the exchange rates are 1 ore, 1 fuel. And then there are things that are 3 ore, which seems almost impossible sometimes without planning ahead. Which actually brings me to that one station, which I swear I've used more in the past and have not seen it used once in the last 3 games I've played. Well, no, that's not true. I did see it play once. But the one where if you roll triplets and you have 3 ore, you can immediately put a colony down. I recall being able to use that so much more often, but recently I have not seen it done. And mostly it was because we weren't getting triples, and the rare occasion that people were getting triples, they never had enough ore. So yeah, I don't know.
I guess then that territory that allows you to have one less ore use on the colony constructor is a good one. Because
Yeah,
you have to get 2, and that's easier, of course, than getting 3. And then you also still have to have those odds of the triples, though, too, which I only got once when I didn't have enough ore, and the rest of the time I never got it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if
I had cards that I had alien technology that let me change the results of my rolls, so it was a lot easier for me to get the triplets than it was to get the ore to use it.
yeah. Also, if you have like a mind control one, if you got like 2 twos, let's say, and you used someone else's die, you could get triples that way
Yeah.
with that card. What did you think about the alien tech cards? And how do you think that they give you any kind of advantage, or?
I have not given them enough credit until recently. And when I started using them a little bit more, I kind of felt like I was generating a little more of an advantage, especially that game where I collected a couple more. I mean, like I said, I did too many. I focused on it too much, but I think having like 2 or 3 alien tech cards is a great idea. And if you've got extra dice, just have a nice little stockpile of fuel that you can keep pumping into those alien tech cards. Because in that game, I was able to subtract 1 from any of my die, which allowed me to get doubles frequently, allowed me to get straights frequently. And that was at the cost of like 2 fuel or something like that, and that was really easy to do. But that was the last game I played. I really started focusing on those alien tech cards, and I think the next time I play, I'm gonna probably do even more and just see how much I can take advantage of the alien tech cards.
Yeah, I rarely use them. I know I should be because it's part of the game, and it could change my strategy, make it more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think the feature on the card that I wish that I would utilize more actually are the discard abilities. I hardly ever have used those in the past.
Yeah.
They can be pretty interesting. A lot of the times they're filled, the generator ones, but maybe at end game that would be good to do because it's end game, so you might as well discard it if it's getting close.
Yeah.
Yeah. There wasn't a limit on those cards, were there? Like you could just have as many as you wanted.
Not that I'm aware of, because I actually came across one of the agenda cards that said if you have 4 or more alien tech cards that none of the other players own, then you get a victory point. So I'm pretty sure you can have at least 4.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a limit on it, but you just can't have the same one twice. You can only have one.
Yeah, you can't have a duplicate.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just thinking, like, I think people don't use the discard abilities mostly because they just want to keep the, as many aliens as they can. It might be interesting if there were a limit, because then you would be like, okay, I have all these discard effects, and I want to choose one of those so I can put another alien tech card into my thing. So I don't know. I mean, that would encourage discarding more than it's been the case, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think also I've noticed as people learn the game a little bit more and become more competitive, you're almost forced to do more drastic things, like with the discard abilities. Like one of the games we played, someone had placed one of those little inhibitor fields that was blocking someone else from basically, I forget what it was. It was blocking someone from something, and I was able to discard the card to remove that field, which allowed me to then, I think, place a colony, which contested the area and subtract a point from them and brought them back, a little back further from winning. And it felt like a worthwhile sacrifice, at least at that point in the game. I think they may have still won, but it was for other reasons. But yeah, I think as it gets more competitive, people have to do more drastic things and utilize more aspects of the game.
Mhm.
Hmm. That makes sense.
It seemed balanced to me. I'm guessing it was part of the original game.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I have to see more of the cards to know we didn't go through a ton of them.
Mhm.
It seemed like something that is worth pursuing.
Hmm.
And the expansion added more cards too.
I see.
So
Yeah.
I wasn't familiar with some of the newer ones. What did you guys think of the agendas in the faction expansion? Did you use them? Did you think any of them were not worth using? Do you think they were balanced?
I couldn't quite decide. I couldn't quite figure out what the difference was between the end game agendas and the in-game ones. I mean, the basic difference was the end game's victory points you could only earn if you fulfilled that requirement at the end of the game, and the other was you had to acquire something during the game, and you could only have one or the other. But I was trying to figure out if one was supposed to be better than the other, you know? And I think ultimately the in-game one is better because as soon as you do it, you get it, and it's yours, and no one can stop you. Where the end game one, you could have it now, but by the end of the game, you don't have that requisite. But there were some that that I came across that I certainly couldn't accomplish in my current position. But I also, just thinking about it, I was like, I had no idea how I'd able to accomplish that in a logical way. Like, it would have to be something that I would have to invest a lot of effort into doing. While on the other hand, there were some that would just said, don't have a colony on this spot and you get a victory point. And I was like, okay, someone else already has it. There's plenty of other places to go. I'm just going to avoid it. So yeah, I don't know. I liked them. Like I said, I like them more after I played it a couple of times. But at first, I had mixed feelings.
I feel like that's the idea, that the in-game ones are somewhat harder to achieve than the end-game ones. I think it's a matter of, well, I want this point now, but is it really possible to get... One of the ones I remember was you had to have a colony on a territory that had the 3 generators on it. And I'm thinking, that's when is that going to happen? I could so much easier get a single territory and get that point at the end of the game than I could actually really accomplish this. I think I would have to put them on there myself in order to actually get that.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's useful to have a way to sift through them, because there are some that just aren't going to be, you just need to be able to dump the ones that there's no way you could ever achieve. Otherwise, you're just holding a useless card the whole game.
Well, I don't know how you guys played, but the rule is anytime you land on the trading post, you may draw 2 agendas, and basically adding them to your hand of agendas, and then you choose which ones you discard, which can include the ones that you already have. And I guess you can't ever have more than 3 agendas at any one time, but that means that if the first 2 agendas you got and you draw 2 more, you could get rid of the 2 that you have for the 2 that you just got. I don't know. I mean, that to me felt like a fairly easy way to cycle through it.
I sort of ruined that for our game, unfortunately. I mean, I guess I took most advantage of those cards, the agendas, because I was sifting through them like a lot, and because we only had 3 players, there's only space for 1 player to go on the outpost. So if I used it, then the other 2 players couldn't use it. And I mean, those cards almost felt like a win more cards. Like if you were winning already or you had a lot of resources, then you could do some of those crazy things that are on the green side of the card. And a little further back, Robert, you're asking what's the difference between the green and the red. And in our game, I had like gotten 3 or 4 victory points just from those agenda cards. So being able to do the green side of the card, not only do you get a victory point now, but you're able to get more agenda cards and then just keep getting more victory points if you're able to, follow those objectives. So it became a little overpowered when I was the only one able to do that.
I think one of the mistakes you guys might have done in that game, at least, was that you can't have any more than 3 of those cards in your hand or completed. So I guess you can't benefit from more
or completed. We didn't know that.
No.
I just thought it was 3 in your hand total.
Yeah. I mean, we could double check the rules, but I recall that being the case.
Okay.
I mean, there might be some minutia to that clarifies a little bit more, but yeah, I could see how that could definitely be a problem if you're winning and you kind of just stick to that trading post and keep cycling through, find the ones that you need, maybe ones that you've already completed, and you're just like, oh, all right, did it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if it limits you to 3, that's probably better.
Yeah.
And then it kind of forces you to use other parts of the game, like maybe the alien tech cards, because I know they have victory points in them too.
Mm-hmm.
And then colonizing and so on and so forth. So it doesn't just put someone into a box of, okay, this is my strategy, I'm just going to keep doing this over and over again. It makes it a little more interesting that way.
Yeah.
I noticed we only have about 4 more minutes. Sonia, are there any other questions you wanted to...
I asked about the agendas. We already talked about factions. I guess if anyone else has anything that they'd like to talk about. Or
for there to be an expansion, the thing that I wish that they had done the most would be to add more sites for colonies on the planet, because I felt that that would be the interesting thing, is to have the planet, have more areas in the planet and have them do different kinds of things so that you can make more of a strategy of like how you want to try to win. As it is, there's about 8 places you can colonize?
I think so. Yeah, I think
it's 8 or 9.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I guess for the expansion, so that you wouldn't have to have like a completely new board, they could have like a little planet overlay.
You could have an overlay.
Yeah, so you could stick it on there and then maybe have different bonuses even. Or you could add the ones that exist plus more. That'd be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even they could apply to one of the other expansions. Because I'm guessing that would be another expansion. So maybe if you were playing it with factions, one of those bonuses could apply to one of the factions or something. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I didn't find the method that they used to resolve trying to take a colony to be all that satisfying. Just have more colonies there than the other person. I mean, it's functional, but it's just not very exciting. And so, since that's not a really exciting thing to do, to just try to make more colonies in a certain space than someone else, having more areas, make it about where you decide to colonize rather than trying to compete for the areas that they're already there would be interesting.
And maybe they could even with an expansion, have certain colonies be worth more, maybe, if you had it. Although that might make people want to take
was the center one worth more, or was it what was the special thing other than getting the ship?
That was just a ship.
That was pretty much it, just the ship, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean the ship went above your maximum of 6, sort of special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would be interested. I'm not sure if there was a mechanic for it. We didn't see it in our game, but a way to destroy ships, to be able to set somebody back.
Yeah,
I don't think there is a way.
I believe there's an alien tech card that allows you to do that.
Oh.
Okay.
I believe. I think it's a discard ability. You discard it, and you can destroy a ship. And it can't put them under 3 ships with that rule. But yeah, I think you can destroy a ship.
Gotcha. Permanently?
Well, yeah. I mean,
or they just rebuild it.
They could rebuild it, yeah, but I mean, they lose it for their next turn. They'd have to rebuild it.
Yeah, if they
Right.
had an expansion that was like Alien Frontiers plus like I don't know some kind of war feature or something.
Well,
Right.
I like the fact that it's less of a combat-oriented game and it's a little bit more economy. And
Mhm.
actually, because of that, I kind of wish there was more player-to-player trading.
Oh yeah.
Mm,
I think
that's
that
true.
would be kind of interesting. But I mean, you're still competing. I don't know. I mean, I think the game is overall pretty good, and I want to play it more because every time I think I know something about it, I'm usually proven wrong the next time I play, and something changes. So that's a good sign to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, it's 8 now, so I'm going to bring this to a close. Thank you for joining me on this hangout. I'm starting to really enjoy these. These are fun, and I like to talk about the games that I play, and kind of open it up to other people out there, hopefully playing the game as well. I especially like most of the games that we've been talking about because they all have been like independent developers, which is what we're trying to do. So I'm gonna try to stick with that if I can
Yeah,
to support that whole thing.
and I like the fact that we did a board game too. I
Yeah.
wouldn't mind doing that again.
Oh, definitely. I
Yeah.
think the next one I'll do will probably be another browser, but a couple from now I'll like to do another board game, maybe even Cosmic Encounters. Maybe with an expansion or not. I don't know if I want to necessarily do expansions right away for things. But this one was a smaller expansion, so I think it was okay to do. So our next hangout will be, I've been making it the last Sunday of every month. I don't know how that's going to work for the holiday. I don't know how I'm going to do that. So look for the invite on there, and I'll let everybody know. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to the next time.
Mm-hmm. Bye bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Good night.